We just have to wait for it to feed over to Instagram. There we go. And we'll be live on Instagram. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our virtual event with Ronald H. Balson. My name is Terry, and I'm one of the owners of Swamp Fox Bookstore. Our shop started in July of 2020 down near West End Diner here in Marion, Iowa, and we moved to our current location at 1375 7th Avenue, Suite A in Marion in January of 2024. We are open most Tuesday through Thursday evenings, as well as Fridays and Saturdays. But even if you aren't local to us, our entire inventory is online, including Ron's book, The Righteous. So you can shop just about any book that's in print on our website at swampfoxbookstore.com, and we are happy to ship it to wherever you're located. A heartfelt thank you to St. Martin's Press and Macmillan for helping us bring Ronald H. Balson live to wherever you may be, and we hope that you will chime in the chat with questions, and also let us know where you're tuning in from. We know we've had people from all over the world tune into our events, and that's always great for us. As I mentioned, we do have copies of The Righteous in stock right now, and I've read the book, and it is fantastic. I definitely learned some things about World War II that I was not familiar with, and so I'm excited for all of you readers to dive into this one and learn a little bit more about Hungary during World War II. So I just want to introduce our guest tonight. Ronald H. Balson is an attorney, professor, and writer. His novel, The Girl from Berlin, won the National Jewish Book Award and was the Illinois Reading Council's adult fiction selection for the Illinois Reads program. He is also the author of The Righteous, Anna Faris Spies, Defending Britta Stein, Eli's Promise, Carolina's Twins, The Trust, Saving Sophie, and the international bestseller Once We Were Brothers. He has appeared on many television and radio programs, has lectured nationally and internationally on his writing, and he lives not far from us, actually, in Chicago. So welcome, Ron.
Well, hi to you and all the people who have joined us, and it's my pleasure to be here.
So congratulations on the publication of The Righteous last week. So I'm going to hold that up again to get the picture. It's a beautiful, beautiful cover. For readers who are joining us online, please share a little bit about what your latest novel is about.
I'm happy to do that. Those who know my novels, and this is the 10th, know that at least the last several have been about, they've been stories of people, of families, of communities during World War II period. And they've mostly been located in countries that were affected by the war, countries in Europe. So I've had Defending Britta Stein, which is about Denmark, and A Place to Hide, which is about the Netherlands. And it was during that book, during my research for that book, that I came upon the information that led me to research Hungary and what happened there, because it just seemed to be such an unusual situation in the previous countries that Hitler took over come the end of 1939, 1940. He would march in and send his army in and appoint some evil dictator like Seyss-Inquart or something and take over the country. And then next thing he'd do is start to enforce his racial laws and start rounding up and killing people. And in the case of Hungary, he didn't do that because, well, Hungary was an ally of Germany. So, in the First World War, it was the Austro-Hungarian army versus the Allies. In the Second World War, it was the Axis countries versus the Allies. And Hungary was an ally of Germany. They were on the Axis time, a part of the Axis group. And so that when the war started, Hitler didn't think it was necessary to take over Hungary, and he didn't. He was comfortable enough with their leaders, and didn't take over Hungary, and didn't disturbed the way the Hungarian rulers ran their country. And so they had so many powerful Jewish citizens, almost 1 million, and Budapest was really run to a great extent by the Jewish community, financially, whatnot, and it was during World War II. I mean, it was a war. It was a horrible experience for any country, but Budapest was really unaffected. There were no bombs. There were no fighting. It was a peaceful place, and so to speak. I mean, Chicago was a peaceful place during World War II, also. And affected, yes, sent soldiers and families and that sort of thing, but the city wasn't bombed anyway. So the Jewish citizens in Budapest and in Hungary were unaffected, and the city was relatively peaceful until Hitler changed his mind. And he changed his mind in 1943 and in 1944. And the reason was he heard that the Hungarian rulers were sending out feelers to other countries, to allied countries like Britain and France and Russia, to see if he couldn't make a deal, because they was worried about where the war was going come 1944. And Hitler got wind of this. And so he decided that he would have to replace the rulers, and he did. And he sent in, and when he did that, he occupied the country. So now he has to send in Adolf Eichmann and all these people to enforce his racial laws and kill all the Jewish citizens. So that whole situation being so different than it was in the other countries, it really encouraged me to write a story, to research the story, and write a story about Hungary.
It was quite different. I liked, one of the things I really liked when I was reading the book is that you presented that in a way that was very understandable, but also how torn the citizens of Budapest, the Jewish citizens, are, because they've been safe for so long, and to suddenly have to think about uprooting and going somewhere. But where do you go when your country is completely surrounded by the country or the regime that is now your enemy, right?
Right. Everywhere you look, north, south, east, west, whatever, to try to escape. Those are other Axis countries. And what goes forth, they're not going to find a safe haven in any of those countries. So that's right. So but that's, that's well into the book. Mm-hmm. I try to examine the citizens and the community and what it was like, and then how it was affected and whatnot. Because really, if you look at it, most of my books do that. They follow, because they're historical fiction.
Right.
All right. Look at the title, historical fiction. It's a contradiction in a phrase, isn't it? Because history it happens. It's authentic. I mean, we can go back and point to the facts of history. Fiction, we make it up. It's made up. So how do you put the two together, and why would you do that? And I think you do that because you want to draw the reader in. You want to have the reader in some way identify with the characters of the book, and have the characters be involved in what's happening historically. And that way, I think the readers can become involved, and I think it's much more memorable. I mean, I was a history major in college. Exciting, huh? And I read a lot of history books, but a lot of them I read them. I take the final, and then I wouldn't remember too much anymore after that. But if you go back into Hungary with Julia Powers or Carl Lutz or any of those people, you remember it because they were characters that you knew, people that you knew.
So we have a great question in the chat from Renee, who also shares that her book club in Florida has read your novels and reviews them. She asks, are all the dates in The Righteous accurate, or did you have to move things around to make it fit the narrative? I guess would be a way to follow up.
No, I try real hard to make the dates and times and characters, and not the fictional characters, but the real characters, be as accurate as I can make them. And I don't really play with the times, and so that's my intent in any event. Could I make a mistake? I hope not, but yeah, that's obviously Julia and Teresa and Benjamin and those characters were made up, but based upon what people would have, the position people would have been in at the time.
Yeah. And you and I were talking before we went live, and it fits in really well with the question that Renee just asked as well. You've traveled quite extensively, and some of that does include how you've been inspired to write your books. So Renee asked, what research did you do to help you write The Righteous, and did you have a chance to go to Hungary for research?
Usually, and I have said this so many times to groups that I've talked, I don't think you can really get a feel for it unless you're there and you eat in the restaurants and you talk to the people and all that. And then I have to tell you, I didn't go to Hungary. I had 2 plans to go to Hungary. One before I went, I got sick and I couldn't go. And then I just in the middle of writing it, and I just finished it. I had access to a lot of materials, but I didn't get to physically go there. But I do like to travel to places like that. And that's what started me writing in the first place, was my travels.
Please share a little bit about that inspirational trip.
I've been a lawyer for over 50 years, and lawyers write, but they don't write fiction. At least we like to tell the judges we don't write fiction. We write memorandums and appeals and arguments and things like that. But I had a case that took me to Poland, and this was right after the wall came down, Mr. Gorbachev. This is right after the Poland began to do business with Western countries. It never had before, not for many years. And so my clients, they were Polish heritage and lived in Chicago. They were in the telecommunications business, and they knew that in southern Poland, it was mountainous, in southern Poland, the telephone service was very bad. Russia didn't spend any money fixing it up, or didn't let Poland spend any money fixing it up. And so my clients also knew from their business that Motorola had a product. It was a little cell tower you could put on top of your house. Wow. And you could beam from that to a larger cell tower to another larger cell tower, and thus have telephone service and a fax machine in your house. So they went over there to Poland, taking that product and their proposition with them, and they said they wanted to put it in to the areas where there was poor service, which was southern Poland. And they got this amazing license. It was an exclusive license to operate a telephone company in southern Poland. And they had a date by which they had to make it happen, and it didn't happen. And my clients blamed Motorola. They said they didn't get the product done on time. Motorola blamed my clients. They said they don't know how to run a company. And so when 2 commercial entities are at that position, they hired lawyers. And so I had to go to Poland a lot. And I had to do depositions there, interview the government officials. The documents are there. The places where the construction was to take place is there, and all that. And so I did. And I had never been to Poland before. And walking the streets of Warsaw and Dębice and Czarnów and all those places, I tell you, you cannot go there and not be overwhelmed by what you see, because this country was devastated. This country was so taken over brutally, murderously by Germany in World War II, and they're never going to let you forget it. There are statues everywhere of soldiers and plaques and memorials. You know, the Warsaw Ghetto was there. They killed 3 million people, and there's an entrance to it. There's an artist did a beautiful representation of a train car with names carved in the side of it. And it's overwhelming. And one day when I was walking to a deposition, I'm just walking down the street thinking about the questions I'm going to ask this witness. I passed by this building which had a brick wall, and in the wall there were holes. And there's a plaque said, here in 1942, the Russians killed 18 people. And, you know, you have to stop. Well, how can I go on doing deposition? It's crazy, you know? And so it was at that time, that trip, that I said, you know, I want to write a story. I want to write a story about a family, just an ordinary family. Not anybody special, but, you know, a family that I could know and identify with, a mother, father, a son, and a daughter, and they happen to be Jewish, and they live in Warsaw, and along with 3.5 million other Jews. And what would life have been like for them when the Nazis came? Could they escape? How did they deal with it? What did they do? And that book then became Once We Were Brothers. So, and when I finished that, I didn't even have an agent or a publisher or anything at the time. I just wrote it.
Yeah.
How foolish is that? As I spent a long time writing it. And then I had it and it was done. And I said, wow. And I tried to interest somebody in looking at it. And then finally I said, oh, hell, I'm going to publish it myself. And I did. And I sent it around to some friends, and you could order it on Amazon or whatever. And all of a sudden it starts selling copies and copies and copies. And after it sold about 150,000 copies, I get a call from St. Martin saying, we'd love to do a second edition. We'd love to do this. And so I've been with them ever since.
That is every author's dream, I think.
I don't know. It just happened. And, what they wanted to know from me was, when's the next book coming out? So I had to write another book, and that was Saving Sophie.
So I know from a lot of the World War II history that I've read and learned from is that the righteous has a very important, prominent place in Jewish history. Can you share where that title comes from?
Sure can. In Washington, D.C., on the mall, right across from the Washington Monument, is the United States Holocaust Museum, and the street in front of that museum is called Raoul Wallenberg Place. Raoul Wallenberg was a Swedish man who was a righteous person. He was righteous. He is in, by the way, my book, The Righteous, significantly, and I think accurately. I only talked about the things that he did. He went to the University of Michigan. I say that, and he did. And but he's righteous because, as defined by the Holocaust Museum Yad Vashem in Israel, he's righteous because he was a non-Jewish person who risked his life during World War II to save as many Jewish people as he could. That is the definition of the righteous. They made that up. And back of that museum, if you ever have been there, it's an incredible museum. It's a beautiful green garden called the Garden of the Righteous Among the Nations. And he's one of them. And so are many of the other, some of the other people. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of those people, but so are many of the other people that I picked out to be in my book and tell you about them and what they did, like Karl Lutz and Casey Fleischman and those people. And my book expands the definition a little bit because I call it the righteous because those people who are genuinely given the title of the righteous are joined by my fictional characters, Julie and Teresa and Benjamin and other people that are fictional in the book, and who risk their lives to try to save people. And I also talk about some people that are, well, John Paley was an American. He's not a righteous, but I put him in there because he was the director of the War Refugee Board who helped innumerable people. Mm-hmm. And also Hirschman was he was like a delegate or representative that we had in Turkey and in southern Bulgaria, and he's in the book. He actually led 140,000 people out of Slovakia, I think, to safety. Anyway, and he's not righteous because he's Jewish, because the definition says non-Jewish people. But I call them all righteous. My book is about people who satisfy risking your own life to save the lives of others.
I liked that you didn't shy away from the fact that many countries had immigration limits, including the United States during this time. Was that something that you just discovered in your research of all your World War II novels? Was that something new for you to discover? I remember reading a book ages ago about it, but I don't know that it's something that a lot of people are aware of.
Well, I don't want to draw any comparisons between then and now, because people for many years don't want people from other countries coming here for one reason or another. And there have been immigration laws. So there are only so many visas which are distributed at any given time. In A Place to Hide, the book before this one about the Netherlands, Julia worked at the United States State Department's office in Amsterdam, where they were in charge of passing out visas or letting you apply for a visa, and of course, as the more the World War II went on, the more people applied for United States visas, and the line would go around the street, around the corner. And the oddest thing about it is I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was in the 1920s that Congress decided they wanted to limit the number of people who could come into the United States, even though our country was founded by immigrants. But they wanted to limit the number of immigrants who can come into the United States. And what they did was they, by country, limited the amount of people who could get a visa to immigrate to the United States to the percentage that country was in the total U.S. population as of 1890. And so in 1890 or 1870, I don't remember which, what percentage of the United States came from England? Well, a lot.
Mhm.
Our country was founded by English. So what country came from Ireland? A lot. How many came from Hungary? No, none of them, hardly any. How many from France? How many from Amsterdam? How many from very few? So even though those countries at the time had a large population, they had very few immigration visas available each year. So, for example, and I think I mentioned this in the book, England had 65,000 visas available, and it had X amount of people that lived in England. Hungary had 900 available, and it was a country that's just as large or larger. Anyway, so that's always been an issue. It's still an issue. And I don't know if we need to get into that.
We don't need to get into it. I was a fact I know a lot of people aren't aware of, that we had there were limits for in many countries, not just ours.
Oh no, there were. Yes, there's no question. They're very, but the immigration limits and numbers of available help, it's been changed so many times.
Yeah.
Not the same as it was in 1936 or 1940. That was based on that old formula, but now it's changed.
Yes. So one of the questions we have in the chat is that since you have traveled a lot, do you speak any other languages fluently besides English?
No. Well, I don't always speak English so fluently, but no, I don't.
So you had mentioned that you're working on the next book already. Can you just share a little bit about your writing process? Do you prefer to outline or just write? And how do you balance? I know this is an issue for some historical fiction writers. How do you balance research with your writing?
I'll get back to the second part of the question in a minute. I know where I want to go with my story. I want to go from A to B to C to D. How I want to get from A to B and B to C, I don't always know. And so I don't make an outline. I just have that in my mind where I want to be. And the book I'm writing on now I have changed it so many times because I'm going to one place, and when I read about that place and do the research and read, so much you can find on the internet, people's personal stories and letters and whatever, and you read all those things and see what happens. You say, that wouldn't have been a good thing to do. So we change it and we go to the left. And so when you go to the left, then you got to go through the mountains. You got to go through the Carpathian Mountains that run straight through the middle of Romania. Now what am I going to do? Now I've got a train full of people in the Carpathian Mountains. How am I going to deal with that? So one thing leads me to another. And so for my writing, the way I write, it's just not susceptible to being a strict outline.
Yeah.
And nor is a strict amount of hours per day. I mean, I've talked to people, a good friend of mine, Pam Jonoff.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. She gets up at 4 a.m. and writes. She's got kids.
Yeah.
She's a professor, and that's a good time for her to write. and she's a doll. But I can't live like that. I can't do it. I write when I get a chance.
That sounds good.
I don't have a lot going on in the law today. I can spend a day or two and I'll just do that way. I'm not very disciplined.
But you get the books done. That's important.
I do. Yeah.
So we have another question from the chat. And if there's anybody else that have questions, just drop them in the chat and we'll grab them. We've got a few more minutes here. So what country have you visited that was the most fascinating? And where would you still like to visit?
Well, I'd still like to visit Hungary, to tell you the truth, because I've written so much about it and I've received so much information about how it was built and the people that lived there and the history that it goes way back before World War II. It goes back hundreds of years, I'd like to visit it. I'd like to see it. It's on the Danube River. I'd love to take that Danube trip.
It would be beautiful.
Wouldn't it? See it on TV and it looks so nice. And I wonder how to do that, But
and a rich history, like you and I were talking about, it stretches all the way back, but their position post World War II is interesting as well because they became a communist country. So there's a lot of unrest that happens there as well post World War II.
Yeah, that's right. I have visited a number of countries that I've written about. One of them was Israel. Saving Sophie was based in Israel, and I went there and went to one of the towns in the West Bank to see this site. And when we were there, I mean, it was something of the patriarchs, a tomb of the patriarchs. And when I was there, I mean, it was a very religious site. A lot of people go there, and certain of the patriarchs are buried there. Their tomb is there, obviously, and I saw this man and woman walking with their little girl in a stroller away from the building. They had visited the building, and what a lovely thing. And yet the man had a machine gun strapped to his back because the town was a very dangerous town. And things like that and I did write about it, and I wrote, and I also heard that a story that was there, and they told me about that there was a wedding, and having the wedding, it was outdoors, and somebody came up, some terrorist came up and shot the bride, and they took the bride to. They said there's a doctor lives right around the corner, and the doctor was is a Palestinian, and he was unfriendly, but when it came to being a doctor, he was a doctor, and he saved a woman's life. And I felt that was something that you should write about. And
reminds me of Becca in The Righteous.
Huh?
It reminds me of the sister in The Righteous. She was a nurse, and she talked about that.
Becca, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I spent time in Northern Ireland, and then so I wrote The Trust. It was based upon Northern Ireland. That was interesting for me, because I had gone there, and so it's then again Poland.
The place that started it all.
That's right.
Great. Well, the one last question I have for you, Ron, is when you aren't writing, what do you like to do with your spare time?
Spare time is an interesting question because I have 8 children and 9 grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
So what I do is pretty much hang out with them.
Oh, that sounds delightful, though.
We travel. We do travel in the United States. Go to Florida. We go to California. Arizona. But I spend time with family, I guess. That's the answer.
That's great. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for your time tonight, Ron. It's been a delight to meet you virtually. And as I say to all of our guests that have a virtual event with us, you're always welcome to come visit us in person. We love to have you. And that's happened a couple times. So being so close, I do hope you have the chance to come see us at some point.
I'd like that. Yeah.
Well, thank you to everyone who joined us online tonight or is watching the replay of this. This will be on Facebook and Instagram and our YouTube channel for a good long while. Copies of The Righteous are available now from your favorite independent bookstore, bookshop.org, and the audiobook, which Ron said to me is amazing. The audiobook narrator is
very
fantastic.
Good. Fred Berman is the speaker, and he's very good.
Yep, is available from Libro.fm. So thank you, and have a good night, everyone.
Good night.